It's April 20th, 2023. I don't know. You call it general groundskeeping, you call it just in general. Today I went for a walk by the lake. I'm still recovering with pelvic stitches, so I can't run, but I'm trying to walk. Um, and incidentally, the last 2 days, I don't know why, as I walk, the smell of nitrogenous waste is so high, and my fingers started swelling out of nowhere. I went to the cardiologist. It's not that. I don't know if it's something airborne. I don't know if it's molecular. I don't know if it's environmental. I don't know if it's something in between in like the AERO field of possibility. So I walked to the lake. Um, I saw, same day, it should be on my Fitbit, the step counter. I walked past, there's state exams today. So I walked by my son's teacher. She was around the lake. Mike, the one who feeds the swans and has the fishing pole with Ray, he wasn't there. But the Mike was there that bought me a pesto sandwich at French Workshop. That Mike was there today, and he mentioned something. He's a soccer player, and again, I have a hard time um, placing exactly from where. There's some pageantry signs, but again, if it's just for me character placement at this point for set design, because I don't know who's working the details of what my Fitbit picks up and what's in the local area. So anyhow, so I'm at Oakland Lake, um, just getting out and about for exercise, and this one version of Mike comes up. I've had several now at this point in my life. There's been several versions of Mike, um, but um, there's this Mike that shows up and he alerts me to something going on in business district elsewhere that I did not know. Um, and I'm like, again, like I've heard about that in movies. I was like, I've never seen or dealt with that in real life, whatever it is that you were talking about. And and I was like, because it doesn't happen that I'm aware of here, like where I am around this lake in this part of the whatever. I was like, but I've heard of whatever you're speaking of in like a movie reference. That's it. And so then he just kept on going. So there's that. Again, I grew up in a very special enclave. I call it the Glen. And there was a very, like, we had field day. I know what color I was wearing. I also know there was a relay race. And I know who the fastest girl and the fastest boy were on my race team. That's all I'm going to say. So that happened once upon a time. This happened just here. Um, I'm watching, there's this thing called America Promised Land, season 1, episode 2. I would not recommend watching it because I don't know. It seems riddled with problems in, I don't know who put this out. It says Story Television, but I don't know on the back end whose version of history this is. But it does have a very interesting point. It says that there's 45 mil over the last 4 decades. There's 45 million migrants that entered over the just last since Carlson and I were running relay in Lloyd Harbor in an element or a grammar school. I'm not sure. So I'm like, huh, 45 million. I mean, like, we're only, I think, in fact, actually, he's a 77, I'm a 78, whatever that means, in chronological birthday years, if I remember correctly. And he stayed from second grade when I first arrived all the way to junior year when I left before being sent to the city where I am still to this day, or in Queens. So, anyhow, there's this story television. They said 45 million over the last 4 decades while we've been alive, um, in newcomers. My mother says that when she worked at Merrill Lynch, as just a customer service rep, nothing fancy. Um, she would answer phones, whatever. She said that throughout the years, there would be these system reps that would come in, um, and they would reprogram the entire floor by phone technology, for computer, for their secured networks. For some reason, there was somebody handling technology, and it always seems to be this group. And I see it in some of the phone companies now. I've heard of it. I mean, again, I know a little bit about construction. I've, again, been around in a bunch of different fields. Um, so, not that I have any particular skill other than great observation and putting things together. Um, and in real terms, just like there was a Carlson on a relay team on field day, and he and I both wore the same color when we were little, there is the same truth in um, this Jason 1976 person that I met. I met at a place called the Crazy Donkey that I would have never found. I would have never entered the building, except I was with somebody I would have much preferred to have been with that night. But he sent me there with this girl, Janice, and then he was going to meet me, and he never showed up. Then, after I left, he called, wanted me to go to his room at the dorm, and he was really mad at me for having gone and for having met this character named Jason from 1976. True characters. And then there is later, years later, just trying to recover after that relationship, after I got out, I was waiting. This other person named Frank told me to go to this place called Blacksmith, which I went. And then that's where Tia Frio 1975 showed up at a actual location called Blacksmith. Did not know the relevance until I see this America's Promised Land today. And then all of a sudden, there's something called a Black Hand that something in the Italian immigrant community knows about, allegedly, according to the story television. Again, I know where Chris and I grew up, there was no speak of any of this at all. Like, this is not where we were headed. This was not where the lifestyle, like how we grew up at like Lloyd Harbor, this was not in our frame of reference. So I don't know how I was ever supposed to know this in order to protect myself from these things that exist out there at, like, lack of a better term, lower class level, which is now where I'm like stuck, kind of, sort of. And I don't know how to get myself out of this and away from these problematic things that keep coming up and keeps surrounding me, and then I can't seem to just shake it off and get it away.
45 million people living in the U.S. today were born somewhere else. Latin.
If that statistic is true, that is a really frightening. I can't even find work or a route or even a person to be with on a day-to-day basis that to enjoy spending time with, but 45 million new people arrived from somewhere else. I can't even find what was already here.
America, Asia, Africa.
In the past 4 decades, there's been a greater variance in the racial identity of newcomers than at any other time in the history of our country.
That's the only piece of this entire thing that is important at the moment, other than this acknowledgement of, in like the slumlord range of, or like, I don't know, like somewhere else in New York City exists this segment of the population where I guess warlords, drug lords, and then fights with the landlord, and then, oh good lord, there's some kind of management that has to keep this all away from other residential areas is going on. And in the section that they label Italian, um, they say that there's something called a black hand. I there was somebody who's been like consistently year after year that I don't know how to break away from, but met him through Frank at something called a blacksmith. And I did not know the relevance until I saw this. And then I'm just like, I mean, how many years of my life are they just going to take away from me just for being whatever? Like, just trying to, like, be myself, I suppose. I mean, like, I don't even know at this point. All right, so here's this story television, and this is the piece on this black hand that I have never even heard of.
This is America today. Every pixel is one of us, each color an ancestral group. If you're Italian American, these pink clusters are you. And the reason why you are where you are could be because your ancestors helped build New York. And it took the courage of an Italian cop to stop it from being blown up. Joseph Petrosino has had a breakthrough on the string of bombings. He stakes out a tenement that he's been tipped off will be a Black Hand target.
And they actually found him engaging in the lighting of bomb.
Petrosino's squad turns the tide. In 1908, they make 215 arrests. Little Italy is safer, and an immigrant community begins the journey towards assimilation.
He actually said at one point that if he didn't do this, if he didn't do what he did, these poor people would have nobody to help them. And that's what inspired him to do it.
On a trip to Italy in 1909, Petrosino is murdered by Black Hand assassins. His funeral in New York is attended by over 250,000 people.
This is the beginning of this piece.
The letter would be signed with an imprint of a black hand.
The gangs become known as the Black Hand.
What you've got here is a Black Hand letter. If you open it up on this letter, you would see that there are faces. These are the faces of the family, and you've got stilettos being drawn going into their skulls.
This is not my line of work. This is not my level of whatever. I mean, I have no idea. Like, and this isn't even, it's called America's Promised Land. It's not even something that I would seek out as an educational piece because it doesn't fit my personality profile. It just doesn't. Except I happened to catch this months ago. I taped it and then I just didn't even watch it. Today, I'm at lack of, and I'm trying to figure out a certain piece of something else that I got going on. And so I was just fast forwarding through some of the stories, picking up some of the key details of whatever it is that they're saying, because it's part of something they're referring to as, because I was looking up different revolutions, and this one says industrial revolution. Because AI came out with this other version of AI revolution. So I was looking to, like, this is the industrial version of revolution. Again, I'm more at AI revolution, but more in the theories of understanding the quantum entanglement and so on and whatever. But I'm watching the industrial part and the people who are skilled workers, for which my father's not a skilled worker with his hands. My grandfather, although he had skills that he picked up when he was in the Alps and in the military, he was not deemed a skilled worker. Although my ancestors were before my grandfather, one helped build the Brooklyn Bridge and so on and so forth, and helped build New York. So that was their Italian passage along with relatives. But the generations kept doing better and better slowly on a slow progression up. And then I don't know what happened with my arrival and whatever went on. It's just been this constant struggle. And I have these real key pieces of what were done, but not sure who's involved and almost afraid to ask that question. But knowing that, I mean, like, I I I don't know where to even go for employment and to keep my health correct at this point. There's so much going on. At like feels like I'm in the eye of the storm again, and there's this like wind tunnel of fury of I don't know what that goes on at all times around the eye, where it seems calm in the eye of the storm, but the I don't know what's just beyond the wall of fury, of wind fury. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.